Hello friends, I'm Dr. Navin Sundar from Karna Institute of Technology and Sciences. I'm going to deal with object-oriented analysis and design. In this, we are going to see the chapter Object-Oriented Design Process and Axioms. So before going in deep into this chapter, I want to tell you about what is this analysis phase and design phase. Analysis phase is none other than we are going to identify only the physical entities. Okay. See, for example, if you take any example like any applications, if you want to see what is this physical entities means, if you are dealing with employees or customers or students, okay, or system, all these things we can tell it as like the physical entities. But what about the design phase? We are identifying the logical entities. Okay, so logical entities means we are going to identify the view layer, how the user going to interact with the system. That is, we are talking about the view layer, and about the access layer, how we are going to design the access layer, so that how we are going to store the data, where the data to be stored, and how we are going to retrieve all these things. For this, we are going to design the access layer. So this is about studying the design phase. Okay. So next, when we see about the OOD process, that is object-oriented design process, how we can categorize. The first we can see about how we are going to design the classes. Okay, how we are going to design the classes. When we are going to design the classes means we know what are the components of the class. We have attributes, methods, and how the classes which we are going to associate it with another class. All these things we are going to take in step. And then coming to the next phase of the object-oriented design process is we have to see about how we are going to apply the design axioms. That means how we are going to apply the rules, okay, in designing the class diagram. That we are going to see. So in this chapter, we are going to see about different constraints and what are the rules we have to follow in designing the class diagram. That is the main purpose of this particular chapter. Okay, and coming to the next, we are going to see about designing, how we are going to design the view layer and the access layer. Okay, as I discussed with you about the view layer is how the user going to interact with the system. So in which we are going to see about macro and micro development view layer user interface, and we are going to see about what is this access layer and how we are going to deal the user with the access layer and the business layer, and we are going to see about how we are going to design it. Okay, and we are going to create the prototype. That means the working model. Okay, so how the model of the complete process we are going to create in it. And finally, the process in OOD process is user satisfaction. Okay, how much the user requirements is satisfied, and also the usability. Okay, how we are going to use it. Okay, so these are all the four phases we are going to see in it in detail. Okay, so when we see about the OOD process, the main purpose we are going to the main thing we are going to see is how we are going to apply the design axioms. Okay, so that is the rules, how we are going to use it to design the classes, their attributes, the methods, association structures, and protocols. As I discussed with you, the classes will have the attributes, methods, okay, and how the classes which is related with one another. And also we have to see about not only the association property, that is we can see about aggregation and composition relationship between the classes, but also we have to see about the class hierarchy. That means which is the base class and what is the derived class, and how these classes which can be inherited from the base class. Okay, so that also we are going to see, okay, how we are going to apply the axiom to it. Okay, and we have to refine again and again to get the better classes. Okay, and the next is designing the access layer. Okay, so for designing the access layer, what are the steps we have to follow? Okay, so we have to create the mirror classes. That means what? We need the business layer and the access layer. So how many number of objects we are going to create for the view layer? The same way we have to create the same number of objects for the business layer. For example, if the user want to give the request okay, want to know, okay, whether, if for example, if you go for the login module, the user want to know whether his username and password, which is already stored in the database or not. So you have to give the request by giving the username, okay, and the business layer get the request and send to the, okay, access layer and objects, and then it retrieve the information whether the username and password is right or not. Okay, so we need an business layer objects and also the access layer object. So that's why we are saying that we have to create the mirror classes, okay, so for the business layer. And the next is how we are going to identify the access layer class relationships. Okay, so for that we have to create many classes, and how the relationship between the classes, in which we have to avoid all the redundant classes. Okay, same type of classes, okay, we should not follow it. We have to remove it, okay, and also we have to delete the classes. For the better refining of classes, we have to we should not have classes with having only one or two functions. Okay, we have to make it such functions into the classes, okay, into the same classes, in order to avoid of having more number of classes. Then our class diagram is not good. Okay, so we have to iterate and refine all these process, okay, in creating the best access layer. And coming to the next, finally we have to go for designing the view layer. Okay, so as I told you, here you have two development user interface process, that is macro development user interface and micro development user interface. Okay, so what is about the macro level user interface? Okay, in which we have to identify the view layer. Okay, and in macro level, for example, if you go for the login module again, if we want to go for the login module, we have to give the username and password. Okay, so that will be the attributes we have to give. Okay, so that we have to find out whether this is how the user going to interact with the system in the login module by giving the username and password. These are all the things which we'll talk about the macro level. But micro level the user interface, as we discussed already about micro level user interface, is how we are going to apply the axioms and corollaries, and how we are going to develop the view layer, and also we have to develop the prototype. That means, okay, how we are going to create the working module. Okay, so model, how we are going to create it to explain the complete module, okay, of the view layer. Okay, so that is about the view layer process in micro and macro development user interface. And finally we have to go for test usability and user interface, user satisfaction, how much the user's requirements is fulfilled or not, and in which up to these requirement is fulfilled, we have to iterate and refine the process. Okay, so that is how we are going to develop the best class diagram. Okay, so in which we are going to go for all these phases. All the best. God bless you.